Pass the rock.
Could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian.
Yeah.
Posting like Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
flying to see the pie.
Yeah.
Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of out of lefties, from football to racing jet skis. He go silly when he go deep, sheesh, is Zach Zeman. Teaming up with Jack, we stack the whole team, man. Pass the rock, don't stop the shot clock.
Woo.
Smack the slap shot, come on, now let's talk. Pass the, yo partner, pass the rock, for real.
On this show, all I do is pass the rock. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's installment, post-Thanksgiving. Jesse still got leftovers. In a second, Jack is going to name 2 World Cup teams that aren't from the United States, and Zach's still flying high as his Eagles squeaked by the Aaron Rodgers-less Packers last night, at least for the last couple series. Jack, you're on board. Give me 2 teams that aren't the U.S.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a struggle. I mean, I know we just
Don't talk your way through it. Just name them.
We just had a draw with England, and we're playing Iran. Boom.
Oh my God, that's so weak.
Hey, you better say it right.
Hey, you know, oh yeah, definitely.
It's pronounced Canada. It's pronounced Canada. That's how you say it.
Hey, I mean, I just got to say,
I can definitely give you 2. Qatar and Morocco. Qatar and Morocco. There's 2.
I just gotta say, I
Qatar's
love
already out. They're actually already out of the cup.
American guy.
Still.
I just love how the one non-American guy on the show is the one with this leftover Thanksgiving. His Thanksgiving.
Hey, I'm half American. I drove to Buffalo for Thanksgiving.
There you go.
He has dual citizenship. Easy on the, passing your judgment on Canada. All right, boys.
He has enough freedom to be on the show. He's good.
Yeah, it's just
all about freedom.
All right. Hey, that was a wacky start to a show. Now we have a wacky end to a great NFL day yesterday. I don't know what was going on in that Eagles-Packers game. It was absolutely nuts. We were all texting about it when it was happening. I couldn't hardly follow what was going on. Thankfully, I wasn't tweeting at that time. Quick thoughts on yesterday and the weekend. Jesse.
Yesterday was a very weird weekend, especially just because that Josh Jacobs game, first off, that's just the first thing I want to talk about. That Josh Jacobs game came out of nowhere. He shot up to 48 points. The single run he had, by the way, was like the RB11 on the week, which is just ridiculous. So be that as it may.
That's a great stat.
We had a great late window for once, the OT game and as well that Chargers thriller with the Cardinals. So it's been a rough couple 4 p.m. windows lately, I feel like. So it was nice to have a couple good games in there.
Yeah, I think Justin Herbert heard a little bit about what Zach was saying about him. Zach, thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, we'll get to some Justin Herbert talk, obviously. I mean, my weekend was good, but one of the weird coincidences I noticed was that a lot of the games in the 1 p.m. slate at halftime had a team that had scored 10 points and exactly 10 points. Like, that's just one of those weird coincidences. It was just a weird week of football, but I was here for it. At least the Thanksgiving slate did not disappoint. It was a great slate of Thanksgiving games.
Yeah, so Jack, your Steelers play tonight, which we'll talk about in a second. Favorite team on Sunday that played that you just saw something from?
Oh, man. Favorite team? Honestly, I mean, I know they were just playing the Texans, but the Dolphins were firing on all cylinders. And, I mean, they've been impressive the entire season. They continue to be impressive. And, I mean, look, they've got some test games coming up, but I'm excited to see them. I think they can take them on.
Well, I won the bet against Zach. He thought you were going to say the 49ers. Shockingly, you didn't. All right, let's move on to Monday Night Football, a preview. Steelers and the Colts. Indianapolis favored by 2.5 for those of you old enough to gamble. One take from everybody. I'm going to start today because I'm tired of being at the end and all the 3 of you pick the same team, and I got to figure out whether to give that team a loss or to pick the other team. So, Noodle Arm, obviously back for the Colts the last couple of weeks, playing the Steelers D. I think the Steelers are due for a decent game. I think Kenny Pickett is due for maybe even a 2-touchdown game. Give me the Steelers 21, Colts 16. So, I like the underdog. Zach, to you.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't see much reason to doubt the Colts right now under Jeff Saturday. I mean, he single-handedly gave the city of Philadelphia several heart attacks. I mean, people were stuffed in the hospitals over here. But I think the Colts win. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points, though, and it's going to stay a close, one-score game. Give me the Colts 19, Steelers 13.
So I thought I was bad giving the Colts 3 field goals. You give them 4. Jack, over to you.
Yeah. Look, I honestly, the Colts have looked much better under Jeff Saturday. He's really lit a spark under this team. They're still not a great team, but they're definitely solid. And if I wasn't a biased Steelers fan, I probably would pick the Colts tonight. But here I am wearing my Najee Harris jersey, and I gotta represent the Steelers. So I mean, look, they played the Bengals tight last week, and I think that they can continue playing at least well enough to beat a team like the Colts. So I'll take the Steelers 24-20.
Najee Harris, over under 4.5 carries tonight. We'll have to see. Over to you.
All right, somebody clip it because it's the only time all season I'm going to say anything good about the Steelers. They're going to win this game tonight off the hands of Kenny Pickett. He's going to finally have that signature, game-winning drive. As a rookie, Deontay Johnson's going to snap his touchdown drought. He hasn't scored all season. He's so due. It's got to happen. Tonight is the night. Steelers 24-23 in a very close one.
Question is anybody still playing Deontay? We'll have to see. Let's move on. We only are going to cover one of the Thanksgiving games as they were, feels like 3 weeks ago. But a little Pats Vikings magic on Thursday night. Jesse, thoughts on that game? Your favorite team?
I know Hunter Henry wears 85. He used to wear 86, but now he should be wearing 88 because that catch was Dez Bryant-like. That ruling that it was incomplete, that he didn't survive the ground. The ball never left his hands, and that cost the Patriots the game. Say what you want, but look, this team has over-exceeded expectations already. They would have been tied for second in the division with a win over the Vikings. The Vikings are sorry. I do not care if they just won this game. And, hey, it reminds me of the Jesse James incident, which is a little bit of karma because that was in the Patriots' favor. So we might have to just, take this one on the chin and keep it rolling. But, Brian, what do you think about the Dez accusations?
Look, I agree there was a terrible call. And I have no idea what a catch is anymore. And I know that's a common theme across NFL, analysts and whatnot. But how is that not a catch? I just don't. Now, it's not as bad as Dez Bryant. There's several other poor calls. So I think you're overreacting there. But it wasn't even the worst catch. It wasn't even the worst catch call of the week. Chris Olave took 2.5 steps, then was pushed down, hit the ground where the ground caused a fumble, and they reviewed it. I was thinking they were going to decide was it a fumble or not, which it wasn't. And then they called it incomplete. That was the only big play of the Saints' entire day. Referees, you have to get together and explain to the general public. A 5-year-old should be able to explain what a catch is. 2 feet in and the ball in your possession. Not any of this. Did he roll on the ground? Did he vote Republican in the last election? Whatever the deal is, it's like ridiculous what we have to go through to determine if it's a catch. Does it look like a catch? Okay, boom, it's a catch.
Hey, did his left shin graze the grass before he went out of bounds like in the Jaguars game? I don't know.
They literally, with Olave, he tripped
Has he
over his own
donated to any
foot.
charities recently?
What's his credit score?
Exactly. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say. I'm so angry about the Chris Olave thing. And then it went to you reminded me of the Patriots catch. And now I'm just like, okay, I don't know what a catch is. And that's ridiculous.
What was his
Texans,
GPA in
Dolphins,
high school?
Jesse, take us away.
All right, Texans, Dolphins. Tua and the Dolphins' entire offense came out comically early in this game. Like it was halftime and they were done. They put up 30 points in the second half, mind you, and 0 in the second half. And you can call Vegas because the team over for the day was 30.5 points. And I just know somebody out there lost the house on it. But that being said, this team is legit. They're 8-3. They're first in the AFC East right now. They look great. They've already beat Buffalo once. They get them again in 3 weeks. But before that, they get the Niners, they get the Chargers, and then they get the Bills. And then they finish the season with 3 more games against the Pack, the Patriots, and the Jets. That is not by any means an easy stretch. And I'm excited to see how good this team is because they could easily come out of that stretch 10-7, and they could come out of it 13-4. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see where the Dolphins end up. I think it's going to be closer to the 13-4 range because their offense is just unstoppable at this point.
Yeah, Jesse, I just want to put in real quick that this game with how the Dolphins played remind me a lot of the 49ers game we saw the previous Monday night. The offense was working on all, it was just running on all cylinders. There was nothing the other team could do to stop them. And this is just like that one free game that both of those teams, both those teams get one free game. That was it. They get to showcase what their potential is. Now it's a question of whether they can live up anywhere close to it, and they're going to play each other. So we're going to see how that's going to go. So it's just interesting parallel that I thought of.
That's definitely going to be a game of the week too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm so excited for that Niners-Dolphins game. I mean, these two teams are very parallel. I mean, they run the same system. Mike McDaniel coming straight from the Shanahan. And both teams have been probably the two most successful teams running that system this year, obviously, as they're the closest to the root of it. I'm super excited for this game. I think that it's going to be back and forth, and it's really going to be telling between these two teams. Just absolute battle.
Just to bring it back to soccer, though, the Dolphins, if the Texans score one more time, then it's a one-score game. All I was thinking was I wish it was like the World Cup where you can't sub people back in and you have to figure out how to win this game with your scrubs. Absolutely took people out way too early. I couldn't believe that. Bengals-Titans, potential playoff preview, rematch of last year's playoffs. And these two teams are actually pretty close geographically to one another, and they don't like each other. So, Jesse, give me your thoughts on the Bengals wide receiver situation.
Look, they're about to get a huge boost with their man Jamar Chase coming back next week. He is slated to play next week. Let me just say, T. Higgins in his absence looks just as good, if not better, a wide receiver one than Jamar Chase. I know Jamar Chase has the explosive ability and he's phenomenal. But T. Higgins would be a wide receiver one on 30 other franchises in the NFL. Like, I mean, okay, maybe that may be bold, but he would start on most teams that don't have like a solid top 5 guy. If it's not Jefferson, Tyreek, Cooper Kupp, one of those top names, T. Higgins is your wide receiver one, and you are completely content with that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's fair to T. Higgins to call him a wide receiver two. I mean, you might as well just say 1A and 1B because T. Higgins is better than a wide receiver two. Absolutely. I agree with you there.
Oh, yeah. No, there's not many wide receiver groups in the same group as the Bengals right now. I'd say maybe the Dolphins and the Eagles are like two of the ones that come to mind that have, two debatable wide receiver ones right now. I can't think of any other team like that right now. So that's 3 teams with amazing wide receiver groups where we basically have 2 wide receiver ones.
Yeah, T. Higgins was going to be the MVP of the Super Bowl had the Bengals finished off that drive. Had Joe Burrow had enough time on that last play to chunk it down the Chase. So what do we think about the Bengals right now, Jack?
They are on fire right now. I mean, they've won 3 straight games, including this one against the Titans, which is that was the first one of the 3 that was against a real playoff caliber team. And they're coming into probably their biggest game of the season, which is a rematch versus the Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch of the AFC Championship game, which is going to be another phenomenal game in the 4:00 window next Sunday, right at the same time as the Dolphins and the Niners. So we're going to need that red zone action there, the 2 box. But I'm super excited for that game. I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Cincinnati finds a way to win that game. They have been on a roll lately, and I think they're starting to look like that. They started off the season a little bit slow, but I think right now we're finally starting to see them look like that team that made the Super Bowl run last year.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, thoughts on the Titans?
Yeah, I mean, the Titans' offense didn't really impress me this past week. I mean, outside of the one Derrick Henry screen pass, it led to a touchdown, but it wasn't for Derrick Henry, which is just obviously so weird. Other than that, there really wasn't much that they were getting going. I think the Titans will be fine. There's no really reason for them to panic. You look at their schedule, they're still playing Jacksonville twice. So that's pretty much 2 free wins for any team that's pretty competent. But there are 2 great defenses left on their schedule in Philadelphia and Dallas. So you got to be a little worried come playoff time when you face a lot better defenses. They know that Derrick Henry is the focal point of this offense. I mean, they live and die through him. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mike Vrabel cooks up to try to avoid those problems with him.
Sometimes I think you say things just to instigate me. Like the Titans are going to win 2 against the Jacksonville Jaguars automatically. Jaguars beat the Ravens yesterday, and the Titans have
The
looked
Ravens
terrible.
are the
only
most
reason the Titans are 7-4
inconsistent
is they play in the South.
The Ravens are the most inconsistent team. Do not tell me that beating them means anything. The Ravens can win any game and they can lose any game. All right.
No, I think that
They're
game's
so
worth telling about the
inconsistent.
Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are better than people give them credit for. I mean, Trevor Lawrence
you.
was awesome in that game.
That's fair.
Oh, just wait for my Trevor Lawrence
Yeah.
take. in
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit.
I'm going to be
I'm
all
just
over.
saying, all I'm saying is you can't notch those as wins, okay? This isn't like we're talking about the Texans. We're talking about the Jaguars, okay? So
All right.
he's off, all right? Give me my North Florida team. Bears, Jets. Wow, I'm going to Jesse every time. He has a take on every game today. Mike White, give me your thoughts.
Hey, I just hop in the notes early. Mike White has Mike White has that dog in him. And let me tell you, after this week, he has completely taken over the locker room. Zach Wilson is in shambles, I'm sure, because Elijah Moore suddenly exists. And Garrett Wilson had his best game of the season. And all of a sudden, this Jets offense puts up 31 points on a pretty good Bears defense. I mean, they're not pretty good, but they've been decent in the past couple of weeks. So Mike White just completely changed the confidence of that offense. I mean, after coming off the 3-point atrocity against the Patriots, this is the type of win that they need. Puts them back to 7-4. You know, they were 6-4. Now they're back to 7-4. Well above 500, no longer looking like they're heading back towards the median of the league, keeping them in the playoff hunt. So shout out Mike White. He's the most confident backup of any NFL backup quarterback.
Zach, what kind of dog do you think Mike White has in him? Do you think it's a golden doodle or something more fierce?
Oh, my God. No, he's got a German Shepherd in him.
Wow.
He's got that dog in him. But, you know, one thing that I noticed about one small thing that I noticed about the Jets this game, they finally gave Elijah Moore the ball a little bit, and he had a 42-yard touchdown this game, looked very solid. Give him the ball. He's a very talented receiver outside of Garrett Wilson. This could be, I mean, that could be a 1-2 receiving punch that could be very dangerous if they actually used Elijah Moore. So, Robert Salah, give him the ball. And another thing that I noticed, Zonovan Knight, I don't know who that is, but all of a sudden he came into this game with James Robinson out and Michael Carter went down early on. And Zonovan Knight came in with 100 all-purpose yards out of the backfield. So really weird observation, but if Carter misses some time and James Robinson continues to miss some time, who knows? There's a waiver wire pickup for you right there, Zonovan Knight.
What a name. And I do hope that you put him on our waiver wire show this Wednesday. That'll be interesting. Oh, my goodness. What a name. Zonovan Knight. Zonovan Knight is your league-winning waiver pickup this
there
week.
There you go.
You know what? Weirder things have been said. Okay.
Yeah.
Falcons Commanders. Back to Jesse. First of all, I want before I give it to Jesse again. I don't know what Sean Taylor did to the Washington football team, the Commanders, or what, but they went to the local Nike store, took the mannequin, and put him in the old Washington uniform. And I mean, his entire family was crying right there, not because of their love of their father, brother, son, whatever, because of how sorry that mannequin was. Somebody explain that to me.
Well, I would love to. Honestly, he was wearing a Nike jersey, which he never played in. He was wearing Reebok pants. He was wearing Adidas cleats. Someone was saying that it was like soccer cleats, but he may have played in soccer cleats. But honestly, whatever. Adidas cleats and Hanes socks. You don't play in Hanes socks, I'm sure, in the NFL. And on top of all that, it wasn't like a cool homage of like a mannequin. It was a wireframe mannequin. It was blatantly disrespectful to the legacy of Sean Taylor. Blatantly disrespectful.
And they also had him wearing these black gloves in the mannequin, which he never wore gloves in his NFL career. He did not wear gloves. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so let's move on to the Commanders on the field, because I think it's been a little bit better than what's been going on off the field. Jesse.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the fact that Nick Foles got a statue and Sean Taylor didn't just speaks a lot of words. Commies on the field though. Hail to the commies, okay? They are 6-1 in their last 7. That is the best in the NFL since week 6. Let me just say that again. The best in the NFL since week 6 is the Taylor Heineke Commanders. And think about when he took over, somebody check on Carson Wentz, because it's got to be going rough right now. The Heineke-led Commanders, they just play with so much more confidence, and just the fact that he's willing to throw the deep ball, and also Brian Robinson. Let's talk about comeback player of the year, Brian Robinson. Like, he's just immediately assumed the RB1 duties when they already have Antonio Gibson as well in that offense. I mean, he's just been an absolute stud as of late. Had a great game. They're 7-5. Chase Young, the former top pick, is rumored to be back next week. That already adds a huge force on this pretty strong defense. I mean, with Montez Sweat on the other side, like, this is a very, very solid front 7. This team could make a run to the wild card. They have a bit of a tough schedule. They get the Giants twice. They get the Niners. They get Cleveland. And they get the Cowboys and their bye week. I'm just saying, 7-5 in the NFC.
Their defense has been the story. So in that stretch, they've allowed 7 points, 21 points, 16, 20. They lost to the Vikings, 21 to the Eagles, who they beat by 11. Houston scored 10. Atlanta scored 13. So now they're getting Chase Young.
Right.
I think that's super interesting. Their next 2 games are against the Giants with a bye in between.
Well, let's be honest here. The real reason for their success is Brian Robinson's big hat. I mean, he said he hit him up if you needed. He has a big hat guy. If you need yourself a big hat, I think I got to hit him up. I would love to get a big hat.
Oh yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, Ron Rivera was on the hot seat 6 weeks ago, and here we are sitting with the Commanders at 7-5 in the last wild card spot with really no signs of slowing down. I mean, the next 2 games against the Giants, like you said, who have been on a bit of a downward trend. I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders win both of them. I really wouldn't. And that would be absolutely wild to see. Props to Ron Rivera, because I was ready to fire him 6 weeks ago.
I honestly think the biggest story of this whole thing is that Taylor Heineke should have been the starting quarterback ever since that playoff game he had against Tom Brady. There is no reason that he should not have been the starting quarterback. He has lived and breathed Washington football for the past couple of years. It makes the Carson Wentz trade look even worse in hindsight. But, I mean, now that you know what you have, I love that they're promoting him for next year as, like the guy for season ticket holders and everything. He should be their franchise starter. Whether he's, in the top echelon of quarterbacks or not, this is their new age Kirk Cousins in a way, where he might not be the best of the best, but he lives and breathes Washington football. And I think that's really important for the locker room, for the team, and right now for winning, because Taylor Heineke just keeps winning.
And he makes a really putrid uniform look really good.
Yes, he does. He honestly does.
Moving on, Bucks Browns. Jesse has nothing to say about this one. Going to Jack on this one. The Browns.
Yeah, the Browns. No one likes to talk about the Browns, but here we are sitting with them at 4-7 after beating the Bucks. That could have just as easily been 3-8 if not for that absolutely insane catch by David Njoku. But we're sitting with them at 4-7 with the return of the Predator himself on the horizon. And I mean, I hate to say it, but if you put Deshaun Watson in there, this is a team that could go on a playoff run. They're 4-7. They're not completely out of it. The bottom half of the AFC is not that strong. I mean, we've had teams like the Chargers have been up and down. The Patriots have been up and down. The Jets have been up and down. If Deshaun Watson can come in and go on a little bit of a run here, don't be surprised to see the Browns sneak into the playoffs and potentially make some noise.
So let me just ask you this, though. He hasn't been practicing with the team. He has been allowed to be at the facility the last couple weeks. Granted, his first game's against the Texans. He's got all the motivation, to to play well in that. I don't know why he would be pissed at them after the things that he did, but is it hard for him to make an impact when he's playing with this team really for the first time? He hasn't had a preseason game or anything like that. I'm not feeling as confident that he's going to take this team where they need to be.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it's a guaranteed thing that he's going to take them to the playoffs because he's still a top 5 quarterback league. No, I mean we haven't seen him play in 2 years. So I mean,
Right.
off the field issues aside, talking about solely the football player, he was a top 5 quarterback in the league before all this went down, but he has not played football in 2 years. So you never know what that's going to look like. But the last time that we saw Deshaun Watson play football, like him, I mean, no matter what you could say about him as a person, he was a top 5 quarterback. So if the Browns can get anything close to that version of him, that's an upgrade for sure on what they have in Jacoby Brissett right now. So, I mean, I think with the defense that they have in Amari Cooper and obviously Nick Chubb, I'm sure will still be a focal point of that offense. They definitely have a much higher ceiling with him at quarterback.
Zach, rest of season, Deshaun Watson or Justin Herbert?
Well, to be fair, I like the fact that Justin Herbert's actually been playing this season. There's no controversy with him. And I'd argue right now because of that rust, Herbert's probably the better quarterback to go with. So I'd say Justin Herbert.
I knew you were a Herbert truther.
I just want to say about the Browns ceiling. I mean, I don't know how much higher it can really get though. Like just because I know if you add a guy who's that level of a quarterback into the offense, like sure it should elevate. But Jacoby Brissett has been making the throws that they need to be making. Like Amari Cooper dropped that ball on 4th and long that would have had the conversion in that game, and then they ended up winning the game thanks to a catch that put them on the 3 from him. He's been a stud this entire season. Like he's had 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like the other wide receivers on the team are still Anthony Schwartz and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I know the running game is already as good as it can be. So I'm just wondering, like, can he really completely turn the table and win out?
I mean, schematically, you can do so much more with a quarterback like Watson than you can with Brissett, just because of the mobility. So, I mean, you can run.
Hey,
so
did you see Jacoby out in open field throwing that block?
Jacoby just doesn't have the speed. He's a tank, but he doesn't have the speed that Watson has. And they can do some design QB runs. They can run some play action bootlegs and get him out in space. Just the kind of things and he also just has a stronger arm too. So you can do these kind of things with Watson that add a new element to your offense, and teams are less zeroed in on Nick Chubb when you've got Watson back there rather than Brissett.
They're 6-11 at the end of this. They beat the Texans and Steelers, lose to the Bengals, Ravens, Saints, and Commanders. Moving on. Ravens, Jaguars. Yes, the Saints are going to win. Ravens, Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence. Okay, I'm going to start. I know Jack's name's listed first. I don't care. I'm going first. You're not a legitimate NFL quarterback until you engineer a major comeback. He did it yesterday. Say what you want about the Ravens. They like to blow leads and are not looking like a quality team in the playoffs, although I think they'll make the playoffs. But I think Trevor Lawrence steps up. He's got no receivers still. I don't care what you tell me. Try to sell me on Zay Jones all you want. He doesn't even have the star power. ATN went out. They had no other running backs. I really liked what I saw yesterday. Excited for him for next year if they can just get him some playmakers that are consistent. Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can confidently say that was Trevor Lawrence's best game in the NFL so far. He was absolutely awesome. You're exactly right about the clutch moments there. He really showed himself for the first time. And he threw for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a phenomenal game. He had like a 128 QBR. I think that was definitely his best game so far. And yeah, I'm hyped for next season. I'm super stoked to see him with Calvin Ridley when he gets in there. I think that's going to be.
I totally forgot about that.
That's going to be just a massive addition for him. And then you add it to Christian Kirk, who's had a very solid season. I don't think he's getting enough recognition. But as a wide receiver too, that's a very solid option. And of course, Zay Jones. I mean, I'm not going to hype up Zay Jones after that game, but you never know. You never know. I mean, Derek Carr once called Zay Jones the hardest worker in the league. So if Derek Carr says it must be true. So I'm just super excited to see Trevor Lawrence in the future, and this Jags team is definitely looking up.
Shout out to the Ravens fan, Wee Hoopin. If you guys know, his massive freakouts went viral for every time the Ravens blew a lead. I mean, the Ravens have blown like 4 double-digit leads this year in like the fourth quarter. It's absolutely insane that they've done that. The Ravens, like I mentioned earlier, they're the most inconsistent team that I've seen in the NFL. Like, no team has like multiple double-digit leads in a football game and loses like the Ravens do. I can't imagine being a Ravens fan right now, just having to deal with that because they just have not been able to hold a lead of any kind. It's crazy.
And the thing
Every,
is, I don't
every
know
loss, by the way, every loss they've had this season has been a double-digit blown lead. All four of their losses.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But the thing is, I just don't know what the solution is. Like, it doesn't seem like they have a major hole. Other than I guess that they don't really have great receivers. But with this offensive scheme, you don't really need great receivers to be that successful. And other than that, they don't seem to have that big of a hole in their team. So I don't know what the fix is, but it's definitely going to be a problem for the Ravens down the stretch because they can't afford that in the playoffs and against a good team in these big moments.
I don't think it's crazy. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I think they're the quintessential problem with the two-headed running back system because nobody gets any, and especially in their case because you have Lamar who's a third running back. You have no consistency when you're up by 14 late in the third. Your running backs aren't able to kind of get some consistency, get some first downs, keep the clock moving, and then they end up throwing the ball and then losing the game in the end.
Yeah. I was just going to say that, yes, the Ravens, obviously, they have Mark Andrews, who's probably the second best tight end in the NFL or the AFC. But it's not crazy to say that the Ravens have the worst receiving room in the AFC and possibly the NFL. Like, every single other team in the AFC, maybe the Titans, has a better receiving room than the Ravens, hands down.
No, I don't.
I think he was looking across and he was like, "I wish I had Zay Jones." Anybody.
The Jaguars are absolutely better for sure.
No doubt.
No, but I'd say I can't name an AFC team other than the Titans that has a worse receiving group.
Yeah, just the thing is, like I sort of mentioned this earlier, the Ravens scheme doesn't really rely that much on their receivers. I mean, when they do use their receivers, it's very much in short passing, like screens and slants, and they're not really asking them to run down the field and catch a go ball. So in that scheme, that's not really a huge need for them. And I think the Ravens have sort of proven over the years that they're not willing to pay a guy like Hollywood Brown because they don't really need that top end talent at receiver to be successful. So I don't know how much that works when it comes playoff time. But as far as winning games in the regular season, it's not a gigantic need for them to have that top end talent at receiver.
At the end of the day, if you're losing the game and Mark Andrews is covered, Lamar has no one to throw to that he trusts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're relying on him to use his legs, which you don't want to do in that.
And Mark Andrews didn't look great yesterday either. I know he's coming off of injury, but Raiders Seahawks. Josh Jacobs, the best run in the history of that stadium, or is it still beast mode?
Wow.
That's really.
It was a pretty sweet run. I know the other one was bigger. It was in the playoffs.
Yeah. No,
it was on the seismograph, but
it might be second best. I mean, I don't know if Josh Jacobs does that at home, then I think that then we're like really talking about because then like the crowd would be into it. But that there's no way it's the best in that stadium. The Beast Quake is always number one, always.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't. Talk about
all right. So Jesse, give us your thoughts. Josh Jacobs making some dough.
So aside from that, game-winning 86-yard touchdown run, he had, 220 other yards in the game too, 303 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 48 fantasy points, unreal. Still not the top performance on the year, but which somehow Joe Mixon had 55 last week. Right. However, this is the absolute dream of any running back who didn't get their 5th-year option exercised by the team, and he's gonna hit the market and he's gonna get a bag. Seriously, he's had some stupid stat lines this year, like multiple games, over 150 yards, nearing 200 yards, now 300 yards. He's launching himself up to the, I believe, RB1 in fantasy football or close. And he's just been absolutely the steal of every fantasy football draft. Like in the 5th, 6th rounds he was going. And now he's absolutely the guy. But The Raiders still suck, so that sucks for them. But Josh Jacobs, man, he's going to get an absolute bag this offseason.
No, I mean, it's just yet another colossal failure by the Raiders front office. I mean, how do you not have the foresight to give him his 5th-year option? I mean, he's never had a bad season. I mean, this is not like you completely blew this draft a bit. Josh Jacobs was objectively the best draft pick of the Mike Mayock era, even if you don't agree with the philosophy of taking a running back in the 1st round. He was still by far the best pick that they made in that era. And although this is definitely his best season by far, has not been a slouch for the first 3 years of his career. How do you not have the foresight to give him that 5th-year option, extended the 5th-year option, knowing that in a contract year, running backs tend to play up to try to get paid? I don't know how you don't do that. I really don't. Who else were they giving the money to?
Yeah,
Devontae
last year
Adams.
he only had 872 yards rushing, but this year he's actually broken. That run broke his career record in a season. He's at 1159. His previous record 1150, and he's still got what, 5 games left?
Yeah,
4 games left. So yeah, look, unbelievable. I was not high on him. I didn't draft him at all in any of my 5 leagues, which is why I'm not in first in any of my 5 leagues. Chargers, Cardinals, Zach, your buddy Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and look, he had a fantastic game. He had some fantastic drives, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 274 yards, 74.5 completion percentage, a 109.7 QB rating. I got to say it. I have seen the light, and it is reflecting off of that golden mane. I think Herbert has finally proved to me that he is, in fact, a top 10 quarterback. I think he finally did it with this game. You look at his stats, and there are some games where it's a little questionable, but he's definitely a top 10 quarterback. He's not top 5. I'm not ready to say he's top 5 like some people, but he is a top 10 quarterback, and I'm willing to admit that I have seen the light reflecting off that mane.
He loves proving his doubters wrong. He said so after the game. He said, looking right at you, Zeman. But
big social media guy, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, no. And the thing is, I still, after that game, I saw someone arguing because of his QB wins record that he wasn't, a great quarterback. And I was like, come on, at least watch what he's been doing over these past few weeks. I actually did watch what he was doing over these past few weeks. And again, like I've said, I've seen the light. He's really impressed me. He's already at 3,000 yards for the season. The game yesterday broke that already. Was it like 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions? That's pretty good. Again, not the best of the best, but certainly top 10.
I like it.
I
like it. I think Justin Herbert, especially now that he's got his favorite toy in Keenan Allen back, his most stable receiver until this year, 100 receptions, 1,000 yards was basically guaranteed from Keenan Allen. So he's going to be a lot more comfortable now that he's back. But let me just say, Justin Herbert has the Patrick Mahomes effect in that doesn't matter who is starting at wide receiver when he plays, they're having a good game. Josh Palmer has been a stud since Keenan Allen and Mike Williams went out, and DeAndre Carter had a huge game yesterday in a game that Keenan Allen was back and scored in. So let me just say, Justin Herbert can make anybody look good, and that's why I think he is absolutely in the top 5 conversation.
No, that's the sign of an elite quarterback. If you can elevate your receivers, you're an elite quarterback. That's a great point for sure.
That's fair.
I can't wait to see him.
I might not be ready for top 5, but I am willing to go top 10. All right.
That's all we can ask at this point.
He's easily top 10. I think he's
easily
knocking on the door of top 5, but we'll see. Saints 49ers. My Saints got shut out for the first time since 2001. Some of you might not have been alive the last time that happened.
I wasn't born.
However, this is what I'm going to tell you. I don't really remember that game in 01, by the way. This team, the 49ers, obviously the Saints are very beatable. The 49ers are very beatable. Their offense, we took away a few things. Obviously, Garoppolo does not have a lot of mobility, so that limits what he can do if there's any pass rush. Christian McCaffrey doesn't look quite right. I'm not saying he's a bad option, but he's not the Christian McCaffrey of old. Debo Samuel's banged up. This team would not worry me if my mascot were the Eagles, the Cowboys, or the Vikings. That's all I got to say. They may win their first game in the playoffs. They're not winning against any of those three teams. I don't care where the game is, if it's in San Francisco or any of those other places. With all that said, if Trey Lance was still the quarterback, they would be 3-9. Your take, Jack.
My favorite time of the week when I got to gush over the 49ers. They find a new way to impress me every week. I mean, the offense, yes, I agree with you. This was not their best offensive showing. But the defense was able to shut out the Saints, which is incredibly impressive considering it's their fourth straight game giving up less than 20 points. That is an elite defense. And that credit goes to D'Amico Ryans, who I think will be a head coach next year. That defense is absolutely incredible. And they picked up the offense this week, absolutely, in a game that they did not have their best against a Saints defense that, by the way, is better than you give them credit for. I mean, the Saints defense is not bad. The Saints team overall may not be very good, but this defense is the bright spot. And one way or another, the 49ers found a way to win this game. They didn't give up a point, and the offense will not always be this bad. They ran into a Saints team that had a good game plan against them, and that happens. But they found a way to win, and I think that the 49ers will continue to find ways to win, and they are still my pick to come out of the NFC.
And here's my follow-up question to Jesse, as I know you're an Alvin Kamara fan. He absolutely had his worst game in his career yesterday. 2 huge fumbles, one at the goal line. Is he done, or do we trust him going into next year?
Wow, that's a loaded question right there. I don't think he's done at all. I mean, he's been one of the best scrimmage backs, I will say, in all of football for the last 4 years running. I mean, the dude is a machine as a receiver as well. They need to pass him the ball a lot more. I mean, I think he really works well as a receiver, but also, I mean, this offense has just been in ruins. They need to put Jameis Winston back in. I don't care. Andy Dalton is not the guy, especially after you get shut out like that. And the fact that Winston's been healthy for how many weeks now, he's got to go back in. I know I dodged the question a little bit, but I think Alvin Kamara still is the guy for that team. There's not many, better running backs in the NFL pound for pound than Alvin Kamara. Yes, he has the pending, court date and all that, and likely a suspension coming his way next season. So I think the Saints should try to get another backup running back if they can in the offseason. I know Mark Ingram is not getting any younger. Nope. So there's actually a very long list of running backs that are free agents this year, including Josh Jacobs, who we just talked about. But there's like a seriously long list of running backs who are going to be free agents. Kareem Hunt is a name I could see, trade one guy with a court date for another. But, that's just how the NFL is. So I think they definitely want to boost the running back room before next year. But Alvin Kamara is definitely going to be the number one on that depth chart.
Yeah, the Saints are toast. They don't have a first-round pick next year. It's all going to be terrible. Hopefully,
aren't they also we're super negative in the cap too?
Well, it's going to take a year. I think they got a lot of progress last year. It's going to take another year to get where they need to get, but they're going to be 3-14 next year. It's going to be terrible.
I'm convinced that Mickey Loomis is involved in some sort of a money laundering scheme, though, with the way he's been able to push the cap hit down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a way to do it again. Just pulls some money out of his ass and makes the.
Well, he can find $45 million real quick. All he has to do is cut Kamara and Mike Thomas, and there we go. Okay. Packers, Eagles. I'll just go ahead and say it. The drunkest game I've seen in a long time. I don't know what was going on in that game. It was absolute insanity. Here's the deal. I told you in the offseason the Packers were going to be terrible. They should have cut or gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. They were 12 weeks too late. Luckily for them, he had some sort of oblique injury. He also has a broken thumb, and he's angry at everybody. Just put him out to pasture. The time is over. Give me Jordan Love. Let me see what he can do the last 4 or 5 weeks. You're not really competing for a playoff spot. I'm ready to see the next generation of Packer quarterback. And who disagrees with me? Jack?
I completely agree with you. I would do the exact same thing. I think that the Packers owe it to themselves to see what they have in Jordan Love. I mean, you spent a first round pick on this guy. You definitely believed in him at some point. I don't know how much you still do, but at a point in time, you had a great deal of belief in him. I think this is the time. I mean, you're right. You're out of the playoff picture. You might as well, right? You ride out the rest of the season, and if Love proves to be as good as he looked in those couple drives in this Eagles game, you trade Aaron Rodgers this offseason, right? You can get value for Aaron Rodgers. I still think that Aaron Rodgers is very solid. I think people are putting a little bit too much blame on him for the Packers' struggles this season. I think it's less his fault than people are saying. And I think you could still get a lot from him. And a little side note that I have here while I was thinking about this take, the Jets are Super Bowl contenders as they make an Aaron Rodgers move. That he would transform that offense. They are a quarterback away from being contenders, and I think Aaron Rodgers could be that guy. So, Robert Salah, give the Packers a call.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
So maybe, the dog in Mike White is a little smaller.
Yeah, you're really doubting the GOAT Mike White. I can't believe you, Jack.
Jack's all about it. Come on.
I hope Mike White.
So he says, but the Jets are a quarterback away. He says he's not about Mike White. It's a facade.
Let Mike White prove me wrong. Take the Jets to the Super Bowl this year. Let him prove me wrong.
Oh, jeez.
The problem with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers is they're young. He wants to play with a bunch of old geezers. I mean, Watson all of a sudden catching the ball, having a great, I'm just really, I'm done with Aaron Rodgers. He's too angry for me. He's got the weird haircut. He gets angry at everybody when he can't throw the ball where it needs to be. I'm just over with it. Zach,
What happened the last time that the Jets got an aging Packers quarterback?
Yeah.
Who was especially moody? It didn't work out well. They didn't win any Super Bowls. I don't even remember if they won a playoff game. They
had to fire a cheerleader.
Look, I'm just saying the Jets getting a washed up Green Bay quarterback. I'm not calling Aaron Rodgers washed completely, but he's certainly not the same quarterback he's been in the past couple of years. It just would not work out well.
I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it's sort of a Peyton Manning to Denver effect.
Oh,
I would not be surprised.
No.
They could have had They could have had Archie Manning that year and won the Super Bowl with that defense.
Yeah, honestly.
Fair enough.
I wanted to throw in one word about Jordan Love, by the way. I know you guys were talking about him. Mm-hmm. The other quarterbacks that were taken in 2020 in the draft that year, Joe Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and a bunch of nobodies. Those four quarterbacks, though, are all in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
At least this season. And Jordan Love was taken, after Herbert, before Jalen Hurts. But we have yet to see him play a full season. I'm just saying, if he got taken that high at 26 when they were passing on a ton of the other receivers in that draft, they could have traded up to get Jefferson. They didn't. But I'm just very excited to see what he has in store for the Packers.
And look, I also just want to say one of my worst takes of all time, but I in that draft class, I had Jordan Love ranked second right behind Joe Burrow. I had him ahead of both Justin Herbert and Tua. So
hey, that still could be
that
true.
might not be a bad take. Yeah.
You never, yeah,
it's
not
yet. We don't know yet, but it's like, dang.
Yeah, it's a little wild to look back on it, but I did definitely have that, and I definitely still believe in Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were only 12 back in 2020, so I mean, what did you know?
Probably.
Any thoughts, Zach, on the Eagles and their? I'm not going to call them struggles. I'm just going to say they're in the middle of this season, and people are giving them their best shot every week. Thoughts on the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, the Packers gave it their best shot. They did play a very good game overall against us. But the Eagles have continued to fly high, and I'm just really impressed with both Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders, how they ran the ball. They both set career highs. There was some stat that NBC showed after the game that basically called Hurts' performance as good as that one game that Colin Kaepernick had in the divisional series way back when he was still playing.
Also against the Packers.
Also against the Packers. That's right. It was also against the Packers. So I'm impressed with the Eagles, continue to find different ways to win because we haven't run that much yet this season. But I'm jumping on the Jordan Love train too. I mean, he only had 2 drives, but he looked good, like really good. Like if I'm a Packers fan, I'm optimistic for next season. Good. Like I'm not sure if I don't want Aaron Rodgers starting again. Good. I mean, I hope that Jordan Love gets to start a full game so we can really see what he has for a full start. But those 2 drives, he only missed 1 pass, and it was still a good throw to the end zone. Like I thought that was probably going to be a touchdown, but the Eagles did stop. Then they settled for a field goal and everything. I think it might have been like a late penalty that really prevented them. But Jordan Love looks like he can really handle this offense. He looks really good.
And he's got the Bears next week. It's the perfect game to roll them out there. What do you have to lose in that?
Ooh.
You know?
Well,
and then there's a bye week.
Well, no, here's the big question. Is that game in Soldier Field?
Yes.
Then it has to be Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
It has to be Aaron Rodgers one last time playing the Bears in Soldier Field. He always beats them in Soldier Field. Come on.
Let him own them one more time.
He's got a broken thumb.
I don't care. I need Aaron Rodgers to beat the Bears in Soldier Field one more time.
I think Jordan Love can do it. I really do.
Rodgers has played worse than
I totally think Jordan Love can do it. I just think we need to see Aaron Rodgers do it one more time. That's all.
Y'all just like him too much. I will say, if Miles Sanders runs like next year, if Miles Sanders is angry running like he did yesterday, I don't think there's a team in the NFC that can stay with the Eagles. I don't think they win the Super Bowl necessarily, but he looked so good. He does not look that good hardly ever in 2 to 3 years at least. And I was pretty impressed at what he was doing. Now, granted, he had holes that Zach could have run through and made some yards, but still, great game for them. All right, that's the end of our list here. We got Steelers Colts tonight. Don't get overly excited. Don't rush home to be able to see it, but put it on if you're there. You know, it's going to be fun. We'll see Jack and Zach again on Wednesday. If you haven't yet caught our World Cup show, check the podcast feed for that. Me and none of these bozos going through the World Cup. Every single one of our soccer experts picked Argentina, in spite of the fact that they had lost the first game, to win it all. So if you're looking for, something with some odds, maybe you throw a look at Argentina. So that's it for Pass the Rock this week. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.